Yes, we're now live, Chairman.
Thank you, we're live. Do we have Councillor Tudor with us?
I'll put the phone down. Councillor Tudor, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Lovely, thank you.
Right. Great, thank you. Then we move on to our last item, which is agenda item 4.6, PA 20055576, Mr. M and Mrs. Z Latham, 23 Silverdale Road, Falmouth, and it's a replacement dwelling. Case officer is Mark Ball. Over to you, please, Mark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just get my presentation up. Yeah. Hopefully you can see that now.
Yeah. Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you. This application seeks full planning permission for the demolition of an existing dwelling and the erection of a replacement dwelling at 23 Silverdale Road in Falmouth. So the key issues are the planning history of the site, design, appearance and impact on the character of the area, potential impacts on neighbours, potential impacts on trees and impacts upon bats. Turning first to the relevant planning history, it's important to note, your members will note from the report that there's an extant planning permission which was approved in June this year under the emergency committee procedure, subject to conditions for the refurbishment and remodelling of an existing dwelling on the site. The current application differs only in one respect from the previously approved scheme, namely that the proposed development would involve the demolition of the entire existing dwelling and the erection of a replacement dwelling, rather than the partial demolition of the existing dwelling and its extension and refurbishment, reusing the existing ground floor walls, which was the case with the previously approved scheme. So the point to note is it's important that, to note that the current proposed development will be identical in terms of its layout, scale, design and external appearance to that which was recently approved. So this slide shows the site location. The site's edged in red here. It's within the main town of Falmouth. For orientation purposes, Swanpool Lake is to the south of the site. Swanpool Beach is down here. Now this slide shows constraints. Application site in the centre of the screen here, hatched in red. And the only constraint that's relevant in this instance is the trees along the rear boundary. These green circles you can see here are trees protected by a tree preservation order, and it's important to note that they would not be affected by the proposed development. This is an aerial view of the site, gives you an idea of the context. You can see the existing trees to the north here and trees to the east here. They provide an important backdrop to the site, and you can see the vegetated gardens at the front of the existing dwellings along Silverdale Road here, which gives an idea of the character of the site, which you'll see from photos in a moment. Now this slide shows the existing site plan. And so we have
Mark, can I just stop you a minute? I don't know if it's the same for everyone, but you're a little bit quiet for me.
Oh, right.
I can't hear everything you're saying. I don't know how everyone else is, but if you can speak into the mic, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's right next to my mouth, so I'm not sure what the problem is there.
Perhaps it's just my machine.
No, okay, it is a little bit quiet.
Okay, I'm not sure what that's about then. I'm speaking right into the microphone. I'll hold it a bit closer.
Yeah, it's the meeting producer here. If members are having difficulty hearing, you could always try turning up the sound on your computers.
Done that.
Already full up. Already full.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Is that? Can anyone hear me now? Is that different or?
Big improvement.
Right, I'll continue. Okay. So this slide shows the existing site layout. We have the existing dwelling here, roughly centrally within the site. This is the application site here, this rectangular shape. The existing bungalow is located in the centre, the existing hard standing to the rear. This is the only adjoining neighbour, number 21, which is a bungalow next to the site here. The rear garden is a mature landscape garden. The existing trees with the preservation order along the rear here. There's an existing garden to the front with driveway access here and parking and turning in this area here. These are the existing elevations, the existing bungalow, front elevation facing the road. That's the rear elevation there, that's the elevation facing onto Swanpool Hill. Now this is the proposed site layout plan. So we can see approximately where the existing bungalow is, that's where the proposed dwelling would be, and it has a very similar footprint, almost exactly the same as the existing bungalow on the site. Points to note here is the garden at the back is untouched. That would be, those trees would be retained. And to the front here, we have a proposed new detached outbuilding, which will be used for storage of bins of recycling receptacles, bikes, and garden machinery and so on, garden tools. There'll be a remodelled parking and turning area to the front of the site and stepped access to the site here, new retaining wall here, and there'll be proposed additional planting to augment the existing planting and retain that green verdant character to the front of the site. Now these show elevations of the proposed development. We have, for orientation purposes, this is the elevation that will be facing Silverdale Road. This will be the main publicly viewable facade of the building. There's the existing neighbour at number 21. Proposed building would be approximately 1.3 metres taller than the existing building on the site. So it would introduce a second floor, a first floor rather I should say, so two-storey development. This is the elevation at the bottom here, which is facing the neighbour, number 21. So there'll be no windows in this elevation. And to protect privacy, the proposed balconies, which is the balcony running on the front here, and there's a similar one on the rear. The flanks of the balconies here will be obscured completely with timber cladding, so there'll be no potential views down into the neighbouring property. And this shows the other elevations. This is the rear elevation here. That's the elevation there facing Swanpool Hill. So again, this is the balcony on the rear here, and this neighbour has raised concerns about potential views from this balcony into their garden. But I would point out we've got the screen on the side here, proposed screen here, which will prevent any direct views down into this property. And also along this shared boundary, there is a significant amount of planting running along here, and that would provide reasonably good screening there. There would still probably be some views from this rear balcony and these rear windows into the neighbouring garden, but it's not the main private area of space, and the level of overlooking is no different in a similar situation where you have properties alongside each other which have views into neighbouring gardens. So any level of overlooking is not judged to be harmful enough to warrant refusal. These are some closer views of the elevation. That's the front elevation facing the road. Material finishes would be vertical cedar cladding. There'll be triple glazed aluminium windows. There'll be a standing seam zinc metal roof, and these are solar panels on the roof here. It's important to note that this building will be constructed to passive house standards, so that's a very high level of environmental sustainability, and that would ensure that's a positive benefit of the scheme. We can see the section through the outbuilding on at the bottom of the site here, set at a lower level, and that would not have a significant impact on the character of the area at all. That's a closer elevation of the closer view of the elevation facing Swanpool Hill, and this would be seen through the existing tree screen, which is along this boundary. So while Swanpool Hill is a busy road, the views of this elevation will be filtered through that tree screen. Now this is a photo of the existing bungalow on the site, so you can see it's a rather nondescript building. Points to note here are the vegetated gardens, the existing trees to the rear against which the proposed development will be viewed. This is the neighbouring property at number 21. Now under this fascia board here on the dormer, the bat survey has revealed that there is a bat roost in this under this fascia board here, so that's an important consideration that needs to be taken into account. So the developer needs to obtain an appropriate license from Natural England in order to deal with that bat roost and relocate the bats. And there's adequate mitigation which is recommended within the bat survey reports to address that impact, and that is secured by condition. So you'll note from the report that officers are content that bats, which are a European protected species, will be adequately dealt with in any redevelopment of the site. Now this is a photo montage showing the proposed development. So we can see here, taken from a slightly different position on Silverdale Road, the building would be about 1.3 metres taller than the existing bungalow. But it would be, the colours of the building are quite muted, so it's more so than the existing painted render of the building there. So despite being taller, because it's set back from the road by a considerable distance, it's viewed against the backdrop of trees, and there would be vegetation of the garden would be maintained and enhanced. It's not considered there'll be any adverse impact on the character of the area. You'll see from a photo in a moment that there are a variety of house types and styles and heights along Silverdale Road, so this isn't an inappropriate departure from what is already found on the road in terms of the quality of the built environment. Now this is taken from the south side of Swanpool Lake, looking across the lake. It is a zoomed photo, so it's not what you'll see in reality will be further away, but this gives you a good indication of what's on site at the moment, this existing bungalow. We then have the neighbour at number 21, and you can see here there's a variety of heights of buildings stepping down, and some are first floor, some single story along here at the moment. But the site does sort of nestle down here with rising land to the rear with the existing trees. And that's the shot looking at as it would be a photo montage there showing what it would look like in post-development. So as you can see, it nestles in amongst the trees here. It doesn't, in our view, it does not appear out of character along here, and it would not have an adverse impact on the area. It's viewed against the backdrop of the trees. The existing material colour, the proposed material colours are muted, and the timber cladding would silver over time, which would help to assimilate it into the area. So turning to the balance of considerations, there will be economic benefits from the construction phase. As I said at the beginning, importantly, there is an extant planning permission for an identical scheme in terms of its layout, scale, massing, design and appearance, and that's an important material consideration. That represents the fallback position that the applicant has to build effectively this development on that site. The development is considered to be appropriate in its context in terms of its layout, scale, massing, design and appearance. It's a high quality contemporary design that would help to raise design quality in the area. It'll be constructed to achieve the passive house standard, which ensures a high level of environmental sustainability over the existing house. There are no material adverse impacts on neighbour amenity, and subject to the imposition of a planning condition requiring tree protection measures to be implemented during the construction period, there'll be no adverse impacts on trees, including protected trees. And finally, adequate mitigation will be secured to address impacts upon bats. So with that, the recommendation is to approve, subject to the conditions set out in the main report. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mark. We have no speaker, no resident speaking in objection, but we do have Councillor Spargo of Falmouth Town Council speaking in objection. Councillor Spargo, can you hear me?
I can, yes, Chairman.
Good. Good. Councillor Spargo, you have 3 minutes to put your point, and you'll be told when 30 seconds remain, please.
Thank you, Chair. Hello again, everybody. So Falmouth Town Council and Falmouth and Penryn Conservation Committee both object to this application. We didn't approve the previous scheme, which has been approved by the planning officer using delegated powers. We also understand, in fact, that in 2018 there was a pre-app planning application for a new build on this site, this location, which was rejected. So the approved one that's there at the moment is to reuse as a fair bit of the building, the foundations, etc., which would be an interesting and much more sensible approach if you want to do a sustainable design and build, less new materials being used. It's out of character, it's overbearing, and on the front driveway it would be detrimental to the local area. That's what the Falmouth Town Council said. The Falmouth and Penryn Planning Conservation Committee said this offers no enhancement and in fact would be detrimental to the area of outstanding natural beauty. The proposal is totally different and out of keeping with its surroundings. It would be ugly and overbearing, and this is in this very prominent location. So both the council and the Conservation Committee are totally at odds with what you've just been told by the planning officer. I know it's a matter of opinion, but you know, he's not the only one with an opinion, and the designers aren't the only one with an opinion. So this building is unneighbourly. It dwarfs the neighbouring property, which doesn't show up on the section drawings because it's either conveniently not shown on one of these sections, and on the other, it's completely hidden by the proposal itself. It's far too large. The supporters of the application from the public are all supporting it because of its eco approach, and we've heard that it's going for a really maximum level on this. Falmouth Town Council would fully support an attempt to do an eco-friendly house design, but it doesn't mean it has to look like a safari park lodge that should really be in Africa rather than down where it is near Swanpool. The design elements for eco-friendly include things like air tightness, extra insulation. rainwater harvesting, etc. These can all be included in a modern design, but with traditional style to blend in. And there's lots of other factors here that there's just not enough time to tell you all about. It doesn't need to be as big. It should be much smaller and much more friendly towards the overlooking. I can't believe that they're saying there's no overlooking. Even with screening, you're going to get overlooking. There's balconies at the front and the back and a bridge. It's all too big.
Thank you very much, Councillor Spargo. I'm sorry, I have to stop you there. Are there any questions for clarification of what the speaker said, please? No, I see none indicated. Could you confirm, please, Vice Chairman?
Yes, Chairman, I can confirm.
Thank you very much. Then in that case, thank you for coming along, Councillor Spargo. We move along to hear from Mr. Alan Jones, who's the agent for the application. Can you hear us, Mr. Jones? Are you with us?
It's Angela Saunders, meeting producer here. I was getting some background noise from Mr. Jones, so I had to mute him. So, Mr. Jones, if you can hear me, if you press *6 on your telephone, that will unmute you. Thank you.
Can you hear?
Yes, hello, Mr. Jones. Can you hear us? Hello?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear us, Mr. Jones?
I can, yes. Thank you, Chair.
Lovely. You have 3 minutes to put your case, Mr. Jones, and you'll be told when 30 seconds remain. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, committee. I'd like to thank Mark Ball for his report and his presentation to you, which I thought was very clear and describes the issues perfectly. I think the main issue is contained within paragraph 3, 24 and 25 of Mark's report, which points out that we already have planning permission to build an identical building to this, albeit with the retention of some of the ground floor walls. The reason why we have come back to planning with a proposal for a new development is we are trying to make this a passive house plus building, which is an incredibly high standard of environmental performance and of low carbon. And what we have realized as we've worked through the detail of the design is that the retention of the existing walls is going to lead to potential cold bridging and potential issues concerning airtightness. And so for technical reasons alone, we have come back with this proposal to demolish the ground floor walls that we were proposing to retain and to start from scratch in order that we can ensure that we meet the objectives of making this a passive house. As Mark has said in his report, this proposal meets all of the tests of national and local planning policy. It was designed in accordance with the Cornwall Design Guide and with the emergent NDP, and it will create a high quality home and landscape. As being a passive house plus, this building will be carbon negative and it will be a net exporter of energy. And as you're aware, Cornwall Council has signed up to recognising the climate emergency through the Climate Change Development Plan. And this building is precisely the sort of architecture that will help you deliver that. One critical item that Mark raised was the question of bats, and we have already received a licence from Natural England, and the bats that were underneath the dormer have already been moved. And now to focus on the complaints of Falmouth Council specifically, the complaint that the building is not in keeping with the neighbourhood. Thank you. The building not being in keeping with the neighbourhood, as the planning report says in paragraph 34 and 35, there is no distinct character of this area, and being a high quality design, this proposal will enhance the area. And finally, the matter of the driveway, as you will have seen from the drawings, the proposed area of driveway in this scheme is significantly reduced over the existing area of hard standing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I've already got two people indicating they like to ask questions, so hopefully you can stay there for a minute, please, Mr. Jones.
Of course.
And any other committee members that wish to ask clarification questions, please indicate. But we start off with the Vice Chairman, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Jones, for the presentation, and you have clarified one of my points. The change to the proposal is for cutting down on the cold bridging, or stopping the cold bridging, and therefore making it passive plus. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, that's exactly right. At the outset, we were trying to retain as much of the existing fabric as we possibly could, because obviously that's a more sustainable approach to development. But as we worked through the detail of the passive house detailing and requirements, it became clear that retaining the existing ground floor walls, we will have cold bridging from the ground, and so and also where the internal walls meet the external walls, there are issues to do with air tightness, and so the recommendation from the environmental engineers and the passive house consultant was that in order to guarantee that we deliver on our promises with regard to carbon reduction, the best thing to do would be to remove those existing walls.
Thank you.
Hence
follow up, please, Chairman.
Thank you. Yeah, certainly.
Follow up question. So, having cleared that up for me, I understand you have an extant permission which was granted some time ago. This proposal, in all intents and purposes, is exactly the same footprint, design, and character, and everything else. So you have an extant permission, really, haven't you?
We do. We could build this tomorrow, albeit
that's retaining. It. Thank you. That's fine.
Thank you. Councillor Jewell, you're next, please. Councillor Jewell, would you like to?
Yeah, no worries. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Am I correct in thinking that by knocking down the existing walls, you're exempt from paying VAT on a new build compared to building with existing walls?
That's correct, but this building has been unoccupied for 2 years, and so as a restoration, VAT is only payable at 5%. So the ambition here, as I said, is in order to deliver on the carbon objectives, and it's not to avoid paying VAT.
Okay, and would you agree that your house would be more carbon neutral if you left the existing walls there in regards to taking them away with a lorry and taking them to a landfill?
What we're proposing to use the arisings from the demolition of the building to provide the hardcore underneath the new ground floor slab. So we're not anticipating removing much, if any, material from site.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions indicated. Would you confirm, please, Vice Chairman?
Yes, confirmed, Chairman.
Thank you. Then thank you very much, Mr. Jones. And
thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. We move on to hearing from Councillor Evans, the divisional member. Are you there, Councillor Evans?
Yeah, I'm there, Madam Chairman.
Lovely, thank you.
Nice to hear your voice.
George, you'll be asked to sum up after 5 minutes, please.
I'll be quicker than that. I support the Falmouth Town Council in their refusal, which was unanimous, which the member of the council have expressed well. Falmouth and Penryn Conservation Committee strongly against, and is not in keeping with the area and detrimental to the natural beauty. This area of the pool plays a great part in the nature reserve, so will not fit into the street scene. A pre-app in 2018 was rejected. It is on the same footprint, but the floor area is about 64 square meters bigger, the size of about 3 bedrooms, so it is bigger in size. The support for this application is for an eco-friendly house, which I know we would all support, but not in this design. So that's the main points I would like to say, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lovely and concise, Councillor Evans. Now, are there any questions for clarification, please?
No indications, Chairman.
No, and I see no indications either. Thank you. Then in that case, thank you very much, Councillor Evans, and we move into questions of the planning officer. Are there any questions of the planning officer? Councillor Mould, please unmute. Thank you.
Thank you. I was just interested to know about the construction plan, read traffic and moving of vehicles. Is there going to be a condition plan for during the building time?
Thank you. There isn't a condition at the moment. There is a condition regarding the construction hours. Members will note condition 6, I believe. Yes, condition 6, which is on page 91, restricting works to between 8 AM and 6 PM Mondays to Fridays and 8 AM to 1 PM Saturdays, but no working on Sundays or bank holidays. That was to protect neighbour amenity.
Yeah, thank you. I know, but I have long histories of these builds, and if these sites are awkward or people have to pass by, you know, it's always good to know there's some sort of plan put in place, you know, even just for the easement of the neighbours, really.
Thank you. Vice Chairman, you're next, please.
Yeah, Mr. Ball, if I could, please. This building that we're considering today has got differences in the cold bridging and things like that, but as far as the square footage or meterage of the floor areas, etc., and overall design, is that the same as the extant permission, please?
Yes, it is. The building, you wouldn't notice any difference externally. It's identical to what was received permission in June this year. The differences relate to just the internal fabric, and that they would not be reusing those internal walls. But to all intents and purposes, you wouldn't notice a difference between the two.
So all the fenestrations are the same?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jewell, you're next, please.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, Mark, you know, could you honestly, hand on heart, say there's a building like this in the vicinity of this area?
There's nothing exactly like this, no, but and the point the report makes,
right there.
Sorry, the point the report makes is that there isn't an overall character for this area. There's a variety of house types and styles found along Silverdale Road.
Thank you. Councillor Mould, you're next.
Madam Chair, I meant to ask first time round. Am I correct in thinking that this is effectively an upside down house? Daily accommodation upstairs and bedrooms down? I can't quite see. Yeah,
yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Kenny, would you like to unmute?
Yes. Could we just have a look at the view across Swanage Pool again, where you have the artist's impression of what it's going to look like? That's what it looks like now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Batters, you're next.
Smart comment was made about this particular house. Looking at all the other houses along there, I haven't been down there for years, but if I remember rightly, there's quite a large variety of houses there, built over several years, I would say. Would that not be the case? I mean, looking at the picture we got there now, the one to the left is completely different to the one further to the left of it, which is different to the one further to the left again. So isn't it such that these houses would have been developed over several years?
Yeah, I think that's correct. I've not looked in detail at the planning history of the wider road, but they were developed over a period of time, and of course the properties have been altered over time as well. Certain properties have been extended in various ways, just given their age. That's typically what tends to happen, isn't it? So there isn't that overall established character. There is a variety, as you say.
All right, Councillor Batters. Right.
Yes, fine, thank you, Chair.
Good. I don't have any other questions indicated. Would you confirm, please, Vice Chairman?
Yes, confirmed, Chairman.
Thank you. Then we move into debate. Who wants to start us off? Vice Chairman.
Yes, thank you. I'm looking at this application from where we are at the moment, which I understand from what Mr. Ball has said, that we have an extant permission for the precise same visually building that is being considered in this application. So I think there's a status quo there, and I think the application to sort of cure the cold bridging is an excellent idea. So therefore, given the mind that we took last time to support this application and was given planning permission, I see no reason to turn this down on this occasion, Chairman. So I will therefore suggest approval as set out. Thank you, Councillor Green. So is that a proposal? Yes. Proposed as set out. Thank you. I've got several people wishing to indicate to speak, so I think the fairest thing I can do is ask if you wish to second, can you indicate again, please, or indicate, do we have a seconder for that proposition? Thank you. Councillor Kenny, do you wish to speak at this point?
Just to say that I've just looked at what I saw in the what I said under the emergency regulations, and I reluctantly approved at that point. I realise it's very unpopular, but when you look at all the policies, it's all down to design, and it's all a very subjective judgment. I totally agree with Fred. The permission is there. The fact that I don't even know what a cold bridge is, but if all they're doing is getting rid of it, then I can see no reason to turn this down.
No, thank you, Councillor Kenny. We'll continue the debate though. Next is Councillor Tudor, please.
Thanks. I don't know what a cold bridge is either. I think it's a shame. Was it this committee then that passed the original planning application? I think it's a dreadful shame, because this is on my running route. This house, one of my running routes, I go around Swanpool Lake a few times, so I pass it at least once a week. So I think it actually is a departure from the character of the other buildings there, but I cannot see how we can't approve this because of the extant planning permission. It's a shame that the owners didn't look to retrofit and transform the existing building, in my view, which would have been more appropriate. But they've gone for a new one, and the green credentials being the sort of tipping point, so that we can't refuse it.
Thank you. Councillor Moult, you're next, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have huge sympathy with the Town Council, and I have huge sympathy with the neighbours, but these so-called passive houses, which gives me a wry smile today, because when we've got this COVID running through everywhere, we're told to open our windows and bring the air through. That's the last thing you do with these houses. You go in and you're hermetically sealed. Unfortunately, they all look like this. They all look like that. I've got untold ones in my village that really do not in keeping, but we are where we are. We're going nowhere with it but to approve it. And one last thing I would say, this upside down building business of living upstairs, the noise that comes from those balconies is very intrusive, but we are where we are, and I just feel very sorry, because I just think it's a shame that we have to go and take up this route, but we are where we are, and that's about it. I just feel very sorry for all those that really have got to live with it, but there we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jewell, you're next.
We don't have to live with it. I don't know what Councillor Moore was talking about. This was passed by the emergency delegation of the chair, vice chair, officer and line manager. It was never debated, as the ward member says. The committee should decide this, not a few people like last time. So we're now going to have a fair debate on this application, and I hope you all listen to the points being raised. This is completely out of keeping with the area. The neighbour plan says the applicant makes claim to a high quality design and passive house standards, but fails to provide evidence that this is achieved. The location facing Silverdale Road and the factors on the corner means it will have a very considerable impact on the setting. As Councillor Tudor said, it is going to be right in your face. I've got nothing against passive houses. I'm carbon negative. I've got solar panels, wind turbine. But this is right in your face. This is completely out of keeping with the area. Those houses, when I went to Marlborough Infant School, were being built in the 70s. I used to walk that road when they were built in the early 70s. This house here is a complete departure. It's a two-storey reverse living, as Councillor Mole said. It's going to impede on the neighbouring ambs of the area. It's affecting the setting of outstanding natural beauty. You can't just roll over and let this go without a fight. And we're here to fight for the cause of the people. You've got the neighbour plan people, which is carrying full weight now, apart from the referendum. You've got the Civic Society objecting. You've got the Town Council unanimous in objecting. So it's about time you councillors took on board the views of what we say in Falmouth. This is not what we want on this site. I've got nothing wrong with a bigger plot out the way, but this is on a very prominent road. This is one of the busiest town roads. And look at it. There's nothing in that area like it at all. So I urge you councillors to think with your head and not your heart and refuse this application. If the other one fails, I will be proposing refusal on the grounds which I did with the similar one. It's not in keeping with the street scene policy 12. There's no continuity with this development whatsoever. It's a complete carbuncle. I'll leave it there for the time.
Thank you. Councillor Alvey, you're next.
Thanks, Chair. I won't take too much time because Councillor Jewell and Tudor before me have pretty much said exactly what I was going to say. This hasn't been debated. This was, as Councillor Jewell said, it was pushed through under the emergency powers. It wasn't decided by this committee. I certainly objected to it. My comments to the emergency powers consultation. You can see from the picture in front of us that there is nothing like it. Yes, all the other houses in the area are all of individual designs, but there's a consistency of white render, proper pitched slate roofs, some with dormers. This is completely different. A standout location, very prominent location in Falmouth. I can't support it, as I didn't support it last time.
Thank you. Councillor Kenny, you're next, please.
I don't think so, Chair.
Sorry, that was an earlier one, wasn't it? And Vice Chairman, did you want to speak again, or is that an earlier one?
I would like to speak, if I may.
Yeah, please.
I'd just like to refer to the emergency powers. You and I were the two councillors as chair and vice chair, along with officers, and we came to a decision. It was debated. Whether the result pleased people in Falmouth is another thing, but it was debated. It was considered carefully, and the decision was given to support the application. Now, as far as I can tell, this application in appearance differs very little from the extant permission that's given, and I think because full committee is now considering this, I think it'd be very remiss of the Central Planning Committee to change tack and go back on what was decided, albeit by the emergency powers. So I think we should have some consistency and support the original decision and give this approval.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tudor, you're next, please.
Thank you. I want to apologise to members of the committee. I didn't realise this was the extant permission came about as a result of the emergency powers planning decision, and I would say that that's a very good example of why they don't work. And I would, if Councillor Jewell wants to propose refusal, then I would gladly second that. And the emergency planning powers, in my view, do not and never have allowed for proper debate.
Thank you. Councillor Mould, you're next, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I always like these debates because you can have somebody else's view and somebody else's look at it, and I'm afraid I come from somewhere where I'm used to this happening and being rolled over at appeal all the time, so I'm slightly sort of put a wall around myself with it. But I listened to what the other councillors have said. but I go back to what Councillor Greenslater says. This was an extant permission. So originally there was I just need to have this clear in my head, please. So we've had an application that was dismissed. Then we had another application that came back with a partial knockdown and rebuild, which was given permission at delegated powers. We've now come back with what probably they wanted in the beginning, which was a knockdown and a rebuild. As I understand, if I'm right, I'd like to be corrected if I'm not right there. So now we're looking at something.
Sorry, no, it's not correct.
Can I bring?
Lovely. Please correct me. Thank you.
Let me bring the planning officer in on that, Councillor Mould.
Yeah. No planning application. I think they're referring to a pre-application advice, which isn't a planning application. So there's only been one decision previously made, which was the one in June, which is the extant permission, and then this is the second application before you now.
So it was a pre-app before that. Thank you. Okay. So yeah, I would love to say I don't want to support this because I don't like it, and I don't think it's in keeping, and I don't think it doesn't fit any of the boxes, and I always like supporting the local people and the councils and everybody else, but we do have to be mindful if this goes to appeal where we're going with it. And I think the problem that we have with this is the extant permission, but I'm happy to listen to what everybody else says after that, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have a proposal on a seconded here. I would like to go to the vote as soon as I can. Councillor Jewell, you would like to come back?
Oh, God.
Yeah, I think I have to come back. I mean, Councillor Greenslater's had two bites of the cherry, and I think I am as well.
Of course. No one is disputing that, Councillor.
No, Councillor Green, as Councillor Greenslater very well knows, him and yourself were the two that voted for this thing in the first place. Now this is the time we've got a chance to debate it, and I'm glad this debate is rolling on, and I don't mind if it rolls on for another few hours yet, because we've got to get to the bottom of this, and Councillor Mould has got to really rethink the way she's thinking, because this is a debate on the plan application. You've said, Councillor Mould, that you don't like to support this application. Well, let's put your money where your mouth is and let's vote against it.
I've got the legal officer, Jane Asprey, is looking to come in. Jane, would you like to speak, please?
Thank you, Jackie. I just want to express my concern, really. I appreciate that a decision was made using emergency powers, but the outcome is that planning permission has now been issued, and we can't go back on that. The council needs to be seen to be operating consistently, and I would have concerns that the committee could be seen as acting unreasonable or irrational if they now decided to refuse this application, which is on near identical terms. And that's all, Jackie. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've still got some hands. Councillor Batters.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Am I not right in saying that all the committee members sent their opinions in on that delegated meeting?
Yes, you are correct.
Thank you very much. And secondly, I'm not too happy about some of the feisty manner being taken here. I think Councillor Mould is entitled to her view, as we all are, without being dragged over the coals over it. I think one should think a little bit more and perhaps reserve their passion for outside the chamber.
Yes, these things are subject. Thank you, Councillor Batters. Councillor Jewell, you wish to speak again?
Yeah, I'm going to just say that we need to go to this vote and let's move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I was just going to say the same thing. So, I've got no new people indicating they wish to speak. Would you confirm that, please, Vice Chairman?
Yes, I can confirm.
Thank you. Then
can I ask a question, please? Very briefly. It's to Jane Asprey, please.
Yes, of course. Please.
Where does this council stand then if the councillors that want this turned down today against the extant permission, where does the council stand on continuity and being reasonable in its decisions?
Well, I think if you were minded to refuse it today, you'd have to set out very clearly exactly why you didn't agree with the original decision, and also if it went to appeal, I think that there could be a real issue with costs there as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, we have a proposal for approval as set out, proposed by Councillor Greenslade, seconded by Councillor Kenny. Emma, would you like to take the vote, please?
Thank you, Chairman. I'll call names alphabetically. If you could indicate whether you're for, against or abstaining for the motion to approve. So Councillor Alvey.
Against.
Councillor Batters.
For.
Councillor Bull.
For.
Councillor Dyer.
Against.
Councillor Greenslade.
For.
Councillor Jewell.
Against.
Councillor Kenny.
For.
Councillor Martin.
For.
Councillor Mould.
A reluctant for.
Councillor Simmons.
Against.
Councillor Thomas.
Against.
Councillor Tudor.
Against.
Councillor Williams.
A very reluctant for.
Oh.
Thank you, Chairman. I can confirm that the motion to approve is being carried by 7 votes in favour with 6 against and no abstentions.
Thank you very much. We then move. Oh, Councillor Tudor, you're indicating you wish to speak.
Yeah, I'd just like to know, not really familiar with the process, but in there, it was said that, you know, councillors were asked to send in their view on the debate. It becomes a sort of email debate, doesn't it, in the emergency planning procedures. I'd like to know if a record is kept of that, of the
Chairman,
submission.
do you want me to? Would you like me to?
It is kept, but I don't think this committee meeting is now the place for that.
I just want
Jane, can I bring you in on that, please?
Oh, certainly not the place.
The vote's been taken.
Oh no, I understand that. I was just asking a question.
Chairman, it's Emma Code. Would you like me to comment on the procedure for the emergency planning decisions?
Is it appropriate that we do so at this meeting now?
I was only going to say that a consultation process does take place on all those applications that went before it, and those results are actually published on the council's website along with the reports that you all considered.
Lovely, thank you.
Thank you.
Emails, right, okay.
Thank you. Right, we now move to agenda item 5, any other business considered to be of urgency, and there is none. So I just thank you all for your patience this morning and for your input, and officers and the Vice Chairman. So thank you very much. See you next time.
Thank you.
Sure, everyone.
There you go. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.